What's up guys, Justin here with CGEssentials.com, back with another Blender Pyclone tutorial for you. So in today's video we're going to check out the new features contained inside of Pyclone version 2.92, including the ability to create plans inside of Blender. So let's go ahead and just jump into it. Alright, so as a lot of you know, Pyclone is a custom build of Blender created by Andrew Peel over at CreativeDesigner3D.com. So you can download this for free by going to the Downloads tab and clicking on Pyclone. Note that this is a custom build of Blender, so you're going to have to install this version of Blender and run it in order to be able to access these features. Alright, so there's also a blog post on his site where he talks through some of the new features contained inside of this version, which I will link to in the notes down below. But now, let's take a look at some of those features. Alright, so if we go into the new Pyclone build, so let's go ahead and go back into Pyclone, and let's add a cabinet right here. So we've added a cabinet into our view. So then I'm going to right click to get out of that tool placement mode. And so I want to tap the N key to bring up the Home Builder menu, click on Home Builder, and then over here there's an option for 2D view commands. And so the first thing we want to do is let's click on the button for Create Cabinet Views. And so when we do that, what that's going to do is that's actually going to create a custom view inside of the Layout View tab that you can click on. So if you look right here, there's actually an option in here for Base 2-Door Cabinet. And so what this allows you to do is this actually allows you to create a plan view of this cabinet in a plan sheet. And so there's options here for your page size, as well as your units, your scale, and your print style. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this around. So you just use the typical Blender move function, but then you can also add in top views or side views as well. So you can actually add all of this in here inside of Blender. You can also add dimensions. So you could add the X, Y, and Z dimensions and click on OK for each one of these just by selecting them and clicking on the button for Add Dimensions. So you can use that to quickly add dimensions to your sheet. So there's also options in here to add things like annotations. And so then once you're done, you can click the option to render this in order to render it out. And you can see how you're actually getting this real sheet in here. And there's an option here to create a PDF. So when you click on Create PDF, what that's going to do is that's going to actually export a PDF file with your dimensions from Blender. So this is a new function that we really have not had before. I'm really impressed with the way that this works. So I think this opens up a lot of really interesting options in the future. All right, so in addition, we now have the ability in our 2D views to click on Create Wall Elevation Views. And what that's going to do is that's going to create multiple different elevation views of your walls. So you can actually use this to create elevation views as well as plan views of your walls. So let's say I was to move this down. We could also create a top view like this. Inside of Blender. So now this shows your wall as well as your cabinets. And so if we were to create this view and then click Create PDF, what that's going to do is that's going to export this to a PDF to scale. So again, this is the first time that I've really seen something that can actually create these printable plan views from inside of Blender. So I'm super excited to see where this goes. I know he's constantly updating this, but this is a very cool new feature. So there's also a new feature that allows you to create new assembly libraries. So this lets you save your own assemblies to the library. I'm not going to get too far into that right now, but there is a video on this page, the release notes page, where he talks through exactly how to do this when he teaches you how to create a parametric cinder block wall. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure to watch that video for creating those custom assembly libraries. So one of the things you might have noticed is you can't take the different parts and pieces and move them around inside of Blender. And so there is an option if you go into the assembly function now, with the drop down, there's an option to make the assembly static. And so what that's going to do is that's going to make whatever you have selected static so you can move it around. So you do need to be a little bit careful because once you make that static, it's not going to update dynamically anymore like it was. So for example, if I click on this cabinet, go into the cabinet prompts, and I adjust the width, notice how that door is no longer adjusting right here. So this is something that's great if you want to like export this to a different program, or if you want to move things around once you have them the size that once you have them kind of set up the way that you want them, but you need to realize that you are going to lose that dynamic functionality when you do make those assemblies static. So you might have noticed now that there's been some adjustments to the user interface of this tool. So now a lot of these are showing up over here on the right hand side. So things like your cabinet prompts, your wall prompts, all of those different things, those are now showing up over here. So that's the first step in a future enhancement. He's going to keep adding functions over here, but a lot of the functions that you were using previously are now found over here in these menus. One thing that's really cool, I'm not 100% sure if it's a new feature or not, but there's an option in here. If you do a shift click on these faces, for example, over here in your home builder cabinet commands, there's an option to update the selected front of the cabinets that are in here. So you can update this with shaker doors, for example. So there's now the ability over here to update some different things that you couldn't necessarily do before. So really cool. Like I said, not 100% sure if that's a new feature, but it is a feature that I think is worth mentioning. And then finally, there's also been upgrades to the way the cabinet placement works. So for example, now the cabinet function is set up where you can just click multiple times in order to place multiple different cabinets. So there's also been improvements to the snapping contained inside of here. So you can snap to the front or back sides of walls. So those placement tools have been improved as well. But the big game-changing feature for this release is definitely the 2D plans that you can create. All right, so that's where I'm going to end this video. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about Pyclone, about this release. I just love having that conversation with you guys. If you like this video, please remember to click that like button down below. If you're new around here, remember to click that subscribe button for new Blender content every week. If you like what I'm doing in this channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Every little bit helps, so make sure to check out that link in the notes down below. But in any case, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks, guys.